Welcome to Virtual Concert Hall's live programs. Thank you for joining us. My name is Jennifer Savage, and I will be your host for today's show. Today, we will be exploring worry as it relates to our lives and experiences, anywhere from the lens of musician, artist, manager, performer, and all the way down to the eye level of the crude and unfiltered human being. So, topic of worry. Why worry? Does it do much to worry? And is it offensive? So there's no one size fits all answer, and this could leave you with more questions than simple answers, but it is more real that way. And that's the way we So here is a little preview to recap our last installment. We'll be exploring doubt.
Doubt is something that everyone has. Every living human being.
Wow.
Yeah, oh wow. It's an existential problem. It's everywhere. Yeah. Doubt is powerful too. It's motivational, like the truth. If you doubt, it kind of pushes you along to do better. Variable in life is that people do change, but they remain the same.
People do change.
It's the biblical thing is, if a man changes, doesn't he remain the same man? Yeah, doubt and trust are related. I'm very doubtful of almost everything. I know very little about anything. I know a couple of things. I doubt it. I mean, yeah, look. I say, son, I say you need some learning. I say you need some respect. I say.
Depending on your confidence, depending on where you are in your life.
Wow, he's really confident. You know, I like his confidence. That's what some people say about me. But what they don't know is that I question everything I do. Affirmations are good, but they're misleading. Have a good attitude. It's another day. Remember, you are loved. Now, I really doubt. You laugh. You know, they do motivate and get you to think less doubtfully, think positively. Well, you know, in a world like this, it's pretty hard to think positively, but you've got to, otherwise you're done. How do you know?
Hilarious, yeah.
I know, but I didn't. but I didn't really. The reason why you have breakthroughs, plural, is because you're doubting the breakthrough right before this breakthrough. Most of my girlfriends in the past say, "What happened?" You know. Yeah, very good. Okay, enough said. There's nothing worse than fear. Nothing. Today, everyone sounds the same. Very few people stick out. This industry's full of doubt. There should be a lot of doubt. Should I continue being a pianist? Should I continue being a conductor? I get up in the morning and I doubt everything. I go, oh, I doubt that that's a crowd.
Really? Doubt. Yes. Wow, it's really funny that you say that term. Okay. And that was our last recap episode. You saw there our first premiere of season 2's first episode on doubt, and we had a lot of little good tidbits in there. And moving on, today I am excited to be joined live for our second episode of season 2 with co-host and celebrated partner in crime, Dick Ronatamian, otherwise known as Jack Price. And just
No, you caught me.
okay. Well, yeah, we caught you in
You
a
caught
little
me.
moment.
No, you caught me doing my email on my wrist.
Yeah, well,
I'm very
that's what
high
Jack
tech.
Price
You know.
does. Yeah.
Yeah. Jack's really at my
yeah.
age to even like be able to write an email. I guess it's pretty remarkable.
I mean, after your career as an RCA recording artist and winning first prize in the 50th anniversary number competitions,
You happy?
and you're the crazy pianist who premiered the right. We've caught you in a moment here, and now we're talking to Jack Price, the artist and manager of Price Attractions. Let's find out what Jack Price really thinks and dive headfirst into the first topic, the main topic of our show today, which is worry. And let's see what is behind door number 1.
Why worry?
Why worry? So, yeah, why do people worry? Why should we worry? Why?
Okay, well, first of all, we shouldn't. Second of all, this is the really fast version. It doesn't do any good. And third of all, some people don't like it when you're always going,
Okay.
brooding. So we just did the whole show there. We can go home now.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Applause.
Yeah, so-
yeah. Put your hands together. We're good.
But so what's the first door again? I already forgot.
Worry. Why?
Why worry? Okay, so
does
the
that
why
exist?
it well, it's funny that we say why worry because why is the thing that I always ask. Somebody will say, that guy was fantastic or something, or that woman. And I go, why? And they cannot tell me because it's something that's just, I don't know. I just love them, or I just hate them. Or so the why in everything is the big question. I think if there is the greatest question in the world, it should begin, why blankety blank? Why do you do that? Why is that so meaningful? Why is that necessary? The why in everything, just to break it down before we go into worry, just why alone is super important because many people know greatness when they hear it, but they don't know why it's great. And that gets to the point of musically, when you're practicing, if you don't know the why, you can't do it again. It's, in other words, you have to know the material inside out, every corner, every turn, to repeat the act. And we've talked about this before. So in order to have repetition, you have to know the why, like why that works and why this doesn't work and why that doesn't work. And, why sitting on the floor trying to play the Tchaikovsky does not work. And I know a pianist who does that, of course. I think we all do. Yeah.
Oh,
well, they practice the Tchaikovsky sitting on the floor. So,
Yeah.
so they were like this. The whole time. So,
Yeah.
why worry? The only answer to why worry is not why. It's how come we worry. You should say, rather than why do we worry? How come we worry? Well, the simple answer is because we're humans. Okay? It's human nature to worry, but again, you can go to the Bible or any other document and it'll say, why worry about tomorrow? There's plenty to worry about today, but that's not really answering the question. In other words, there's so many worries, you can't go to tomorrow's worries or the next day's. You've got enough. You have plenty of problems for today. Solve today's problems, then go. But again, that doesn't answer why. Why do we worry?
Right. Why?
The real answer is because we don't have any answers. Okay? So if we had the answer to something, you would never worry. For example, a passage. You know how these people walk out on stage and they go, oh my gosh, I'm about to play this concerto. I don't know if I'm going to remember any note of it. Or an actor goes on stage to do the producers or something, or, Jersey Boys, and they go, what's my first line? They're obviously worrying. So worry comes from, again, what doubt comes from, and that is insecurity. I think when people
root of
are
it
insecure,
is fear and insecurity,
fear,
doubt,
insecurity, they're all really related. So, we're kind of like picking at straws here. We could have just one show and say negative.
fear.
Why are we
would
negative?
Would you define worry as more of like a symptom of fear? Then it's like what comes,
Yes. Yes.
What
It comes
happens-
It comes after fear, because fear is more, it's bracing. You see a snake, he's going, at you. I do good snake imitation. My best snake imitation is, I like that one. That's with the forked tongue. Thank you.
I think the people like that.
Thank you.
Memes.
I'm glad you like, yes.
Didn't show.
Well, I'm not Rich Little, but, I am Richie after all,
Yes.
So anyway, Rich
But
Little is a
the
famous
root and-
mimic, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
Rich Little. It comes from the root of fear, and then it's a symptom. Worry comes after as a symptom, you were saying.
Yeah, like right now, I'm worried that you can see these stripes on my face from my CPAP, from my sleep apnea last night. See, you see over here, you can see a little bit. You probably can't see it. Maybe you can see it. But yeah, I'm worried that you can see that. That's because I'm afraid that it doesn't look good. Okay, well, who cares, I'm beyond, at my age, I'm beyond.
Answer to that,
Actually,
someone
at
else's
my age,
perception.
no. At my age, I'm beyond worry and doubt. I'm in cognitive decline.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's, we can go into cognitive decline on another day, because I have lots of friends that in the past have passed away from, Alzheimer's and so on. And I've aided them in their eschatological stage, which means things in their final stages, like death,
Eschatological.
Yeah, so eschatological, I got that from Paulo Soleri. That's his favorite word. So anyway, it's in a book called The Omega Seed. You might want to read it. It's very good.
Okay.
Anyway,
Lots
yeah.
of terms here. Yeah.
Yeah, a
So,
lot of terms. But anyway, back to
worry. How come
Yeah.
we worry?
Yeah, it's
we're
what you said.
defining
It's what-
it. You're, so,
Yeah.
well, just to recap, you were saying why worry? Why we tend to say why worry very often, but the question should be more: how come we worry? How come we as humans?
I think so. And it's how come is because of what you said, the fear and insecurity that is built in us. It's hot wired. There's no way, you're born, you're a baby, you come out, he's insecure, she's insecure already, she's crying,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like there, insecurity is beyond reproach. It's just, people say, well, I'm not insecure at all, and I go, really? Of course everybody's insecure. If we weren't insecure, we wouldn't be talking the way we do. But on the other hand, some of us are more self-effacing than others. So they'll go, well, I'm at the top of my game, And when that person lifts their nose into the air, there's a problem. Okay, it's the most well-adjusted people I know are humble and admit their problems. The ill-adjusted hide with this air of superiority, and they're sophisticates, Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, that says it in a nutshell.
Yeah, is that
worry
really who they are?
Yeah, worry and doubt come from fear and insecurity, so that's why we worry. So there it is.
All right.
Door number one.
Why we worry. Let's pivot here with a quick clip we'd like to show to switch things up. And we'll get right back into why we worry and what worry is to us. And stay tuned right here on Jack Price is Right. And that was Ravel's Sonatine, first movement, what I did. And I think a very fitting piece for the topic of worry. It somehow seems to go congruently. Let's bring Jack Price on and see what he thinks.
I love that piece. The thing about when you think of Ravel, you think of Gaspard, Latombeau, and Miroir, and the Laval's thing. Anyway, this sonatine is very difficult, and it's a lot to worry about because you don't know. And you should be able to do it on any piano, don't get me wrong, but you worry about the quality of the instrument. Let's say if you went cold on stage to play that somewhere you didn't know the piano, you'd worry because it's very hard to control that.
Action.
Yeah, it's very difficult. Control in Ravel is a worrisome thing. It's all about control, but then he's probably the most orgasmic writer I know. He writes bigger and better orgasms than anybody, like in the middle of Scarbo, middle of Ondine, and it's always the apex is before the calm at the end,
Yeah.
I mean, Scarbo ends like, Rumpelstiltskin disappearing, and then Ondine ends very quietly, but the climax is in the middle, basically. And same with Scarbo. Piece, I can't remember. It's been so long. I can't remember if there is a climax in the sonatine. But it's a control thing all the time. So the worry is,
like, why
am I going to be able to play?
Yeah.
Yes. So it's an apropos example. And it's such a gorgeous, shimmering thing that he's going for, and you want to capture that harmonic tension too. You don't want it to just
fragile. I mean, it's that's why you worry about the action of the piano, and if you're wondering if you can really keep it under wraps, that shimmer, just constantly going through that first movement of Ravel's Sonatine. So.
Yeah, I think it's the hardest movement of the three in terms of worry. It's right from the beginning. The last movement you can get into it. Yeah, I mean it's a lot of fingers and stuff, but there are a couple of spots. But the real problem, like in Ondine, is the opening.
Yeah, would you say it might be a hallmark of Ravel as a composer, like that worry comes from that technique that you have to nail from the start? Here's an interesting idea to conquer this worry or fear. At the beginning of Ondine and at the beginning of the Ravel Sonatine, one should think that the music has already been going. That's how I think of it. So and then all of a sudden you start playing. If you're thinking about it, it's already started in your mind. It's much easier than to go like from cold. Yeah,
I mean, you can't do it if you think of it as already existing in the stratosphere. The sound is already there, and you just happen to touch the keyboard at a certain point.
Yeah, you're just joining in.
You're joining in. That is correct.
Yeah.
That's my idea of a lot of things. Now, you wouldn't think that way.
That's a great tip. That's a great tip, by the way. I mean,
I
think a lot of musicians, not just pianists, but also singers, should keep that in mind. It's you're not just starting cold. If you just re-examine and recontextualize how you're coming in with your very first note, your very first breath. There's so much pressure if you're thinking of it as, this is my first breath. I'm going to start the song now. I'm going to start singing now. But if you think of it as, I'm joining in on something that's larger than you, that's already going, you're just going along with the motions that already exist, it's a lot easier to get into.
It's a lot easier instead of going, first of all, that shouldn't even be it anyway. In other words, that's not the piece. Even though it might sound like that, I think you should start, since we're getting musical here about worry, if you're worried about this opening, I would start with a retard, and then go. First of all, I would go to the downbeat, then take time, then go on, if you want to be specific. So, beat a little da, 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 da. So the long note is the C sharp. And the C sharp should sing, and then da da dum. On the B, you go on, but not
Yes.
mechanical da 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 dum. That's going to kill you right there. Same with Ondine. There are many ways to look at it. My idea, of course, and I've talked about it to several students, is to lean to the right, because the right hand is by far, the left hand isn't even playing at the beginning. So, but the left hand should participate because there's a balance. Even though it's not playing, you should think of it as playing. It's very complicated. But the main thing about that, the worry there is you should be not encroaching on the keyboard. You should sit back and up so that there's very little weight in the keyboard so that shimmer can be controlled. That's the worry. You should worry about crowding the keyboard specifically. That's the problem. So now we're getting very technical, but that's what we're supposed to do on this show. My idea of the show is to conquer, or give the listener a predicament and some sort of antidote to get out of it. In other words, through the eyes of a pianist, musician, manager. You can relate this to management. I'm having a lot of managerial problems right now because we're getting into touring, Budapest Philharmonic and the Cairo Opera Orchestra, logistics, the bus schedules, the visas, and it's a lot to worry about. But the answer there is what we talked about before: is just take one thing at a time and move linearly. Don't go, oh yeah, all of this I'm put upon Richie, everything's put upon me,
I guess it's similar to Ravel. You just kind of go with emotion rather than think that you have to start from where you are, start cold. It's a little different. You should dive into your managerial problems, or music is different. It's a continuum, whereas you wake up and you go, okay, I'm going to do my email right now. That's a very decisive thing, and you just start. But you can't really ease into it. You got to go email by email. You know about this blizzard, blizzard of email we get every day. Some of it's trash, some of it's pertinent. I have a secretary now that weeds out all my garbage, so I go right to the thing. That's a worry. Okay. So okay, for now, let's move on. We're talking about the topic of worry and see what's behind door number 2.
Okay.
So worry, go ahead.
I'm going to be very brief here because we can go right on to door number 3 very quickly here.
Sure.
Does it do much? The saying is, somebody will ask you at the, grocery store when you're checking out, how are you doing? Okay, and my answer is, well, I worry, but it's not going to do any good if I worry. In other words, there's no real profit or gain from worrying. When you think about it, it's a losing situation. It's not a gaining. You're losing confidence when you worry. You're fearing more and more the task.
You saying it worries nothing but a net loss? Is there nothing to be gained from worrying? I think so.
No, it's not like doubt. I think there isn't. I have to say this is definitive for me, maybe not for everybody. So, but Jack Price is always right, so I am right.
Yep.
No, I'm just kidding. Yep. So here's the thing. Worry does no good. Okay, it only enhances the other 2 original sources of worry. Doubt, fear, insecurity. So worrying about all 3 of those is very worrisome. It's like I knew this guy named Dave Romblum. He's probably out there somewhere. Every time he came for a lesson, I'm thinking, Dave, you're hacking. He was always coughing, and I said, this is a real problem. So I had a friend that said, no, it's a real Romblum, meaning that's his last name. So now I refer to problem and says Romblums. That's a Romblum. It's funny, right? But the thing is, this is a Dave Romblum, But the thing is, it's a problem to worry because it doesn't do one thing. It's a negative. It's a zero. Matter of fact, it's a retardation. It's a negative. It's down below zero. It's really tearing you away from what you should be doing. And that is the opposite of worrying should be positive thinking, saying, you know, I'm going to get that. I am going to get that no matter what. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, Andrew Grossman told me a lot about this, you know. He just passed, by the way, my colleague. Yeah, he passed away two months ago. Jerry Schwartz gave a beautiful little eulogy thing online. It was a phenomenal tour manager. He started out life in his teens. Zell picked him to be associate French horn to Myron Bloom, one of the greatest French horn players ever. No, there's not just Barry Tuckwell. There's Myron Bloom. Anyway, Myron was phenomenal, and Andrew Grossman was chosen as assistant, like, you know, second chair or substitute or whatever. Then he said, forget this. There's no money in playing in the Cleveland Orchestra. Let's go for the real thing. And he became, you know, a businessman, a tour manager at Cami.
Yeah.
He had a wealth of knowledge, and he said to me once, if you want to do something right, do it yourself. And that was his motto throughout his whole life. He did it himself. So therefore, he minimized his worries because he was the only one he had to answer to. He did everything himself. He never had a computer. He did everything with pen and paper, right to his death to 2 months ago.
It cuts down on a lot of the, you know, unknowns and therefore the doubts and the fears. If you know, you have a lot more answers, and, you know, you might not have all of them, but you have a lot more if you're doing it all yourself. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and his business was the touring business that relies greatly on personal connection. In other words, you have to connect with people on the phone and in person. They have to like you. They have to like the salesman. So the worry is, are they going to like me? You know, of course.
Yeah, which is a big worry for people. Like.
Yeah, because you're not really
would admit. Yeah,
you're not
worried about if they're liked or not. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you're not, that's right, because you're not selling the orchestra, you're selling yourself. The salesman has to be liked. They'll buy anything from the salesman if they like the salesman.
Yeah.
Just about. Even a sack of potatoes, it doesn't matter what you're selling.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, salesman matters here.
It's the conduit that has to be sold, the passageway. And the passageway through a sale is the salesman or woman. So if they like the salesperson, they're probably going to like the product. And that's a big worry, and that's it. So worry doesn't do any good there or anywhere for that matter.
Your book. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not in my book, yeah.
Yeah. Moving on, let's go and see what is behind our next subtopic, behind door number 3. So, is it offensive? Yeah.
I know everybody's wondering about this probably in the back end here.
Right.
This is to me the most obvious thing. It is highly offensive. And that's because it is. Because when you worry, you get into self-degradation oftentimes. And people are not attracted to self-degradation. They're attracted to strength. They're attracted to people who are confident. Like we talked previously, you may not be confident, but you have to exude confidence. Okay? So whenever you exude worry, like you get, that's worried, I don't know, Like I had this friend of mine that goes, their fingerings are everything, if you don't have fingerings, I'm imitating him. He was really like very quiet guy, and I said, why are you so worried about your fingerings? Because I never, I can change fingerings in the middle of a performance. It doesn't bother me. So, but he would say, oh no, it's got to be all worked. I said, no, man, you're worried about these fingerings. You're worried that you're not using the right finger for the passage to make the right sound correct. He goes, yeah, that's it. I want to make the right sound. And I said, yeah, don't finger it according to what's economical. Finger it according to the kind of sound you want to make, like the beginning of Ondine. Okay, some people try 4/5. on the G sharp and A. No, you should use 3/5, but you should phrase away from the A because that's the atonal fragment to the C sharp major chord. So you want it yada da da dum. No, da 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 dum. Wrong. Da 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 dum. You want to always go to the chord. So the phrasing should be to and from the thumb. It's very complicated. Anyway, the point is you shouldn't worry about it. You should just do it. Like in the Bible, it says, do it. Don't, I might do it. I'm going to work at it. I'm going to really try. No, there's no trying in baseball. You either catch the ball and throw it to the first baseman or you do not. It gets by you. It goes through your legs. You drop the ball and the baseman gets to first base. So there's no trying. You've got to do it. They have very little time, right, to get a slam to third base and get that ball over to first. The runner is very quick. So there's no trying. You got to get it. If you miss it, it's an error or a base hit. So
how does worry factor into that process if it's so, there's
are you kidding? The minute that it's milliseconds. The minute the third baseman hears the crack of the bat, he panics. Of course, who wouldn't? That ball is
reaction time is what you're saying.
What is that?
It would dull your reaction time.
Absolutely, it will dull it. You've got to concentrate. And that's another episode. Concentration is a very key element in worrying. So how is it offensive, though? Because it spreads. That's why. Yeah. It's like a disease, and we talked about this. So if you're worried,
it spreads and it gets in the way and it hinders what you're doing and your reaction time to everything, not just baseball.
Yeah, but more than that, if you're in a team sport or a team, like, we have virtual concert halls, right? And you've got a team, right? You've got the back end and all these people, I'm not going to name the names, but, the host and this and that. And if you worry, they see the worry in your face. I mean, it affects everybody. Like in a competition, if you're worried, oh my gosh, am I going to be able? Then your mother starts worrying, and then your father. Then they start calling you and going, "Are you okay?" I don't want to deal with that stuff. I don't want to deal with parents. I don't want to deal with sisters or brothers. I just want to do it.
It all adds up, right? Yeah.
Yeah. The shortest distance between A and B is a straight line. Just do it. Don't worry. Worry keeps you from doing it. You see, it's a non-motivator, whereas doubt is highly motivating. It's highly motivating. Yeah. But worry is not.
There's a very fine, distinction you're coming to between those two terms.
Yeah, we just end the show right here. Worry turns everybody off, including yourself, and it's self-deprecation comes on and all this garbage, and nobody wants to be around it, and nobody wants to continue, and you have a standstill in the process.
And that's why in your book, you consider, is it offensive? Yes, it is, because it gets in the way.
It gets in the way. That's good.
It's in the way. All right.
Yeah.
Well, so I think that covers our topic for today of worry. It's been really interesting getting into your distinctions between these terms and, how you view the world through your lens, as an artist, manager, musician, baseball enthusiast. But it's been great having you on the show, Richie. I want to thank you for your time. Our episode on worry, and the time is right. I think we got to go here. I want to take a moment to thank our partners and sponsors. You can see them up on the screen. We have so many symphonies, academies, schools, orchestras, all sorts of music organizations that are working with us to make this broadcast we have for you today possible. And we also stream on all these major platforms, whether it's Facebook, Vimeo, Lionable, LinkedIn, YouTube. Catch us all on all the major streaming platforms, which we're always, keeping up to date with. And also, I do definitely want to thank our collaborators. We have a great team, as Richie mentioned, Jack Price mentioned earlier. We have a great production team here at Virtual Concert Halls. And today's broadcast was powered by Krisztian Palagyi, directing behind the scenes. That's correct. Could not have done it without you, and all of these sponsors and partners that we have behind standing with us. And we are so grateful to have everybody on board with us. I think that's all we've got for today. This has been Jack Price is Right. I'm your host, Jennifer Savage, and I hope you have gotten something out of it for yourself. I know I have, and I will see you next week.